Hey everyone, it's Shelby, the conservative bookworm. This is, drumroll please, number 10 in my top 10 favorite books list. So if you are just seeing this list for the first time, you can go to my channel, look at my playlist, and there's a top 10 playlist, and you can start from number 1 and look through all of them. For those who've been keeping on with me through this list, good on ya. I hope that this has been helpful for you. So let's get to it, shall we? So first up, ages 8 to 12. This is a classic, but it's just awesome. And it's so funny because I have like some of my boy students in my book club and writing class. One of them in particular, he loves this book. So that's why I didn't put a boy counterpart to this book. I know a boy who likes it. He's a boy's boy, so boys or girls could enjoy this book. It is A Little Princess by Hodgson Burnett. Awesome book. Most people, I think, are aware of this story because of the movie, and I liked the movie. I thought it was really sweet. There's the Shirley Temple one, and then there's the newer one from the 90s. Both, have their good things in them, and I think both get, especially the newer one has a lot of elements in it that I really like, that I think are good from the book. But it is different. The book is better in a lot of ways, and it definitely doesn't end the same. It's not the same kind of ending. I don't want to do any spoilers. You just have your kids read it. It's such a good book. It's such a sweet story. And it's really about just being kind and being a prince or princess, being thoughtful and polite and loving in spite of your circumstances. Even if life gives you lemons, right? The little princess, she made lemonade out of lemons, and she continued to do good, in spite of her circumstances. So just a really sweet book. It is a classic, so it's written a little differently, but I think 8 to 12 is still appropriate. It's about a little girl who's around that age. So I think it's a great classic to start out with. If you're just introducing your kids to classics, this is a good one to start out with because it's pretty easy to read. And of course there's like The Secret Garden by Hodgson Burnett and Little Lord Fauntleroy, which is so sweet. That's a thicker book, but very, very sweet story. So that's ages 8 to 12. A Little Princess. And that's actually, I've had this book a long time. I think I got it when I was like 8 or 9. Okay, so next up is ages 13 to 15. And it could be younger too, but I'm putting 13 to 15, is The City of Ember. You can see it? City of Ember by Jeanne DuPrau. And this is the first in this series. So the rest of the series, I'll just read off. The People of Sparks, The Prophet of Yonwood, and The Diamond of Darkhold, which I actually haven't read The Diamond of Darkhold. That one is newish, but I've read the other 3, and they're all very good. I think City of Ember is the better one. Like, you don't have to read the others, but you definitely can. But the first one, of course, I think is the strongest one. But they're all good. It's kind of, it's like dystopian, kind of futuristic. Don't know, I can't say, I'm just going to talk about the City of Ember one, the first one. That's the one I have most clearly in my mind. But that one, about a young girl, it's about a girl and a boy. And they live in this city, and they don't know where they are, they just know that it's very dark. Like, they only have electricity. There's no sun. They don't know about the sun. They've been there for a long time, several generations. No one can really remember how they got there. And so it's kind of a mystery, sort of. And then this girl and this boy, they stumble upon some clues, some things that seem to point to there being a way out of this place, and it's a big deal because the electricity is starting to flicker, which is a big problem, because if the electricity goes out completely, they don't have any light. So it is a really good book. A lot of like teamwork. I don't think there's really any violence per se. I mean, it's a bit of a thrill kind of, because you know, you don't know what's gonna happen, and like them getting out of the city is a big deal, and it's kind of scary. So but a really good book, City of Ember by Jeanne DuPrau, and of course the other books which explain more of how they got there and the backstory. And it's like I said, it's kind of dystopian, so thinking about like futuristic end of the world kind of stuff, as long as you're okay with your kids reading that. But this is one of the few dystopian novels where there's no like blood and gore or anything like that. It's kind of along the same lines as like The Giver, as far as, but not as dark as The Giver, but along the same lines of kind of like after all the cataclysm stuff, and it's like people several generations later trying to figure out what happened. Okay, so my last recommendation is for ages 16 to 18, and this one is a companion novel to one that I recommended earlier, which was Between Shades of Grey by Ruta Sepetys. So this one came out this past year. I recently read it, and I'm putting it on the list because it really moved me. Like, it kept me up at night, which doesn't happen often. Usually I'm just like zonked out as soon as my head is Isabella, and this one kept me up. So I would definitely say 16 to 18, maybe closer even just to 18, like to young adult, because like I said, Between Shades of Grey, which if you look back, I can't remember off the top of my head which number that was. I'll put a link below to the top 10, which video that was that I had, Between Shades of Grey, and I talked about that. But this one is called Salt of the Sea. It's a companion novel, so it's not a sequel in the same sense that it's not the same people. Like, you don't find out what happens to the people in Between Shades of Grey in this book. It is about a character who was briefly mentioned in Between Shades of Grey, which was the main character's best friend and her cousin. So it's about her cousin, and it's about 3 other people. And it is set around a historic event that really took place, the worst maritime disaster in history up to this point, I believe, which was the sinking of the Wilhelm Gustloff at the end of World War II, which was a German boat. It was a German refugee boat filled with people fleeing the Red Army, fleeing the Soviet Union that was coming into Germany, coming into the Eastern European nations. And so it follows, it's told from 4 different four different perspectives. One is a German soldier who's a little disturbed. One is the main character from the last book, her cousin. One is a young Prussian boy who's kind of on a mission, like kind of secret, and then one is a young girl who's like, I think 15 maybe, who's from Latvia maybe? I can't remember off the top of my head. She's from one of the, no, she's Polish. So it follows, and it is not for the faint-hearted. It is a difficult story to read because it really just bare bones what happened to the people who were trying to flee the Red Army, people who were the civilians, you know. I mean, some soldiers too, but the Wilhelm Gustloff was a ship that was full of women and children and wounded soldiers who were trying to get away, trying to get to Germany, trying to flee the Red Army, and within, I think, 24 hours of them being on sea, and this was in the winter, it was on the Baltic Sea, so it was very cold. They were hit by 3 torpedoes from a Russian submarine, and it's about the characters getting to the ship, which was basically, to them, that was safety, that was their refuge, and then the ship not even being safe, and the ship sinking. And the ship was only supposed to hold 1,500 people, and it was holding, I think, 9,000, I want to say, and I think 8,000 people died. I mean, it was terrible. It was terrible, and most of them was women and children, and so there's some really, really, really heart-wrenching descriptions of what these people saw, and a couple of the characters well, they all go through terrible things, and there's a lot of just really gruesome war scenes. I mean, just, the author does not mince her words. She's tactful in that, like, there's no, like, overabundance, but I mean, it's just, war is terrible, and it is dirty, and it is bloody, and it is not something to take lightly, and she does, I think she does a great job and just talking about this little known, or little heard of historic event. And for that reason, I am recommending it, because I think if you have an older child, because there's some cursing, and there's some killing, and there's talk of rape, because the Russians raped a lot of Germans, and Polish, and just whoever they came across. There's no, like, the rape thing, you know it happened, but there's no, like, there's no scene. It's just talked about, and the aftermath kind of thing. So, but like I said, very hard to read, but I think at the same time, really, really well written, and really important to understand. But like I said, for older children, I would not recommend this for younger ones at all. I did not recommend it for my kids. For the book club, we read Between Shades of Grey, which seemed pretty tame after this book. So those are my suggestions. And if you think that would be good, if you're learning about, you have an older teenager, young adult who you're learning about these kinds of things, or learning about the Holocaust, or about World War II, or any of that, I would recommend this book, just to kind of make history come alive. Unfortunately, history is full of blood and gore and sadness. So I'm sorry I ended on such a sad note. I didn't mean to. Little Princess is good in City of Ember. Anyway, so I hope these top 10 have been helpful for you. I'm sorry this last video is kind of going long. But I hope these have been helpful for you. You can start back at number 1 if you're just now seeing this, or look through them at any order you'd like. And be sure to subscribe to my channel, or go to my website, which I'll link below, and you can sign up for emails to get updates about when I put new reviews and new suggestions up. So I hope these have been helpful. Thanks for watching. Bye.